What's up, guys? It's Drifting Lifts again. So I was just about to go to the gym here, and I figured I'd make a little video for you guys. It's been a couple days since I posted one. No drifting right now, but this will be an explanation of basically how I got into drifting, and then how I got into Volvos after that. So yeah, like I've loved cars my whole life. I'm 22 now, so yeah, 22 years ago, even like when I was fucking 1 year old, 2 years old, like I could remember drawing pictures of pickup trucks and cars and shit and like two-dimensional pictures and that kind of thing. I used to like be crazy about monster trucks. Like my first word was tractor, and my second word as a young baby was tractor then truck. So yeah, I've been into it for a fucking long ass time. Like I've always loved this shit. But yeah, I guess it was probably about grade six. So 2006, that was about 10 years ago. And I guess I found out what drifting was through the internet or whatever. Like I saw videos of it and stuff, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. Because what I really like about drifting is that you don't, like you can do it, you're not racing. It's like a style sport, and you can kind of do it on a pretty low budget if you want. Whereas like if you're racing stock cars or, drag racing or that kind of thing, like usually it will cost you, you're gonna spend a bit of money. But like you can pick up a fucking bone stock Volvo and weld the diff and you know put a boost controller or whatever, and it'll cost you fucking $1,000 and you can get drifting. So it's pretty cheap. Yeah, so I fell in love with drifting, and I've been into it ever since. I really liked it when I first started. I didn't know anything about Volvos, so this was like a little ways back. But when I first got my license, I was really big into import cars, like most of you guys are. Imports are fucking sweet. I really like Chasers and a lot of the Toyota models, but there's some sick Nissan Skylines and 240s, S13s, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I've actually owned like a lot of cars. I think if I counted, it'd probably be like 26 or some shit now, around there. But so I've owned a bunch of Nissan 240s. One had an RB25 Skyline motor in it, and that was pretty sick. But what else have I had? Like BMW E30, I've had LS400, Toyota Celsior, Toyota Soarer. I've had a Cressida with a 1UZ V8 swap. That was a pretty sweet car. Yeah, I had like an old Celica, like an 85 that was rear wheel drive. So basically, yeah, a lot of the budget rear wheel drive 80s, 90s sports cars that you can get for cheap. So yeah, I guess so. How I got into Volvos though, that's kind of an interesting story. I was up working in Alberta. If you guys know Canada, there's like there's the oil boom or whatever, so there's lots of jobs up there. I got a pretty good job up there, and I would go up there for 2 weeks, and then I'd fly home and do whatever the fuck I wanted to. Made pretty good money at the time, so I was always coming home from work, buying different cars, I would sell a car, buy another one, fucking always flipping cars here and there, trying different ones out. But then finally, I was kind of bored of the BMW that I had at the time, and instead of going through modding it, like I liked the car, but it wasn't the chassis for me, I feel. So I was feeling something a little bit different. Like I wanted to buy something that rear wheel drive, easy to mod, and I was looking on Craigslist, and I was like, what the fuck's what's a cheap car that's rear wheel drive that I've never owned, kind of thing. And then I remembered, I was like, oh, does Volvo have anything? Volvos, right? Like, do they have anything rear wheel drive that could potentially be a drift car? So I look on Craigslist and I type in Volvo, and I scroll down a little bit, and I see a 1988 740 turbo manual transmission wagon. So it had the M46 manual transmission. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, so I did a little bit of research on them. Solid axle, it comes from the factory turbo. It's pretty easy to mod, like toss a boost controller and an exhaust. I learned that the ECUs are, they can compensate a fair little ways until you gotta actually go mega squirt. And yeah, so I ended up going out there. The guy was actually a Volvo enthusiast, and he had already an IPD turbo cam. He had IPD springs, IPD sway bars. Like it had a bunch of cool little parts on already. So he was asking $1,800, and I felt that was a pretty fair deal already, so I gave him full asking price. Didn't even try to barter him because he was a fellow, or actually I wasn't a Volvo enthusiast at the time, but he was a fellow car enthusiast, so I didn't want to kind of, you know, he was a nice guy, so I didn't want to barter him too hard. But yeah, I drove it home. I really liked the car. It needed like a little bit of work, like it needed a new clutch eventually and stuff. But I remember the first day I got a straight pipe on it because it had a pretty stock muffled exhaust when I first got it. So putting a straight pipe on it flowed the exhaust flow a little bit better, gave it a couple more horsepower. And yeah, I remember fucking taking my buddy for a rip, and I pin it down the street and it lights up first, bangs into second. There's like still spin the tires down the road, and it's like goes pretty fucking good. It was running 13 pounds of boost at the time on stock injectors and stock ECU. So I'd say from that point on I was hooked. I got the diff welded and I would just drift the fuck out of that thing basically. And like I already had tons of practice drifting, so it was never like I wasn't learning in that car. So yeah, I really like how these cars drift. I mean, they're pretty balanced chassis because it's a 4-cylinder with a relatively bigger car, and you know, I don't know what the weight distribution is, but they're pretty good. So yeah, and then since then I've only owned Volvos basically. So that was kind of the thing that was the car that got me hooked on Volvos. What I really like about them is that they're really easy to work on and they're unique. I know obviously in Sweden you guys they're not unique whatsoever. They're kind of more like a 240X SX would be here. But over in Canada where I'm from and the United States, not many people drift these cars. Like when I go to drift events, I'm the only Volvo there ever. So but yeah, so that people will come up to me in the pits like, oh, it's really cool, man, you're drifting a Volvo. And like, yeah, I guess it is kind of cool if just because it's unique compared to all the other guys that are there, right? Yeah, but so I'm not planning on going into Formula D or anything. Like drifting's my hobby. So, and I live on my own. Like I'm 22, I have my own job and stuff. So I don't exactly have all the money in the world right now. So that's why they work for me, because they're cheap to mod and they've seemed to be pretty reliable for me. Like the red block motor that comes in all the 740s and the 940s is fucking awesome. I love this motor. Maybe it's not the best for power, you know, it's not going to make 1,000 horsepower like a 2JZ would or anything, but like it goes pretty good. I got on this car I got a turbo and, you know, bigger injectors and stuff, and I'm sitting in my 940 by the way. Yeah, so basically whatchamacallit. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it. Like I basically I'm gonna keep on drifting Volvos and keep on filming vids for you guys. I don't think I'm ever gonna change chassis. I really like these cars. Oh, another thing I was gonna mention is that like the reason it's really budget, like I know you can go up to, you know, however far you want to tune these cars you can go for. But what I really like about these cars is up to say 200 wheel horsepower, maybe 220 wheel horsepower, it's really cheap. Like all you need is a slightly bigger turbo, more boost, bigger injectors, and you know, a good flowing exhaust, and you're pretty much there already. And once you gut out the car like I have, remove 400 pounds from it, it goes like perfectly good enough for what I'm doing. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going into Formula D or anything like that. So I don't need a bunch of horsepower. You can drift fine with 220 wheel. Like I had a non-turbo wagon and I could drift that fine. It probably had like fucking 80 horsepower to the wheels. So, but yeah, so I'm gonna keep at this kind of level. Like I'm not really gonna go too much further. I might put an IPD turbo cam in this 940 that I'm sitting in right now. Maybe that's probably about it. Yeah, a turbo cam, maybe an aftermarket intercooler. That'll probably be good there. Maybe coilovers. I need coilovers eventually because these cut springs are fucking bouncy. But yeah, guys. So that's just kind of how I got into drifting, how I got into Volvos, and yeah. Hope you guys liked the video. It's nothing too crazy, no drifting in it, but stay tuned, like and subscribe, please, because I'm going to be filming drifting videos and street drifting videos and shit on the regular. Usually I have the weekends off, so I try to get out and do some street drifting. Me and my girlfriend bought a GoPro and pretty good Nikon, so we usually film with that. So yeah, there you go, guys. Like and subscribe. Have a good one. Peace out.